is if you've positioned yourself properly as that expert that makes sure the nervous system, the system that helps us adapt and cope readily and appropriately so we can be badasses regardless of what's going on in the marketplace, that our nervous system is operating clear and free of interference so we're able to adapt readily and appropriately to those stresses. I know the truth. The more stress there is in the marketplace, the more people need chiropractic, not less.
Hello and welcome to the Remarkable CEO Podcast, a show dedicated to chiropractors who want to transform their job into a business so that they can have a remarkable practice as part of a remarkable life, not instead of one. With your hosts, Dr. Pete Camiolo and Dr. Stephen Franson.
Welcome to another episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast, Chiropractic's #1 business podcast. I'm Dr. Pete Camiolo.
And I'm Dr. Stephen Franson.
And I don't know about you, but I'm a musician. And one of the things that I got when I was doing a lot of music and I was leading worship actually with our church is my church got me an acoustic electric guitar, which enabled me to no longer have to just play an acoustic. I got to plug that bad boy into an amplifier, turn that bad boy on, and next thing you know, that sound was going to fill an entire church. And it wasn't like me quietly playing in the front with a bunch of people, just close to me being able to hear me. And I'll tell you, the amplifier makes the difference. It took all that energy and effort that I had as trying to put out some energy, which worked in a small room. But once I went into a bigger room, there needed to be an amplifier. I needed to take my instrument and I needed to amplify that sound so we could reach the masses. It could reach the people. And Dr. Stephen, today we're going to talk about the marketplace as your amplifier. It's just an amplifier. And the question is, how are you going to use that amplifier? How are you going to use that when it comes to what you do as a chiropractor, as a CEO of your business? When we think about the marketplace has constantly gone through changes. It's ups and downs throughout the history of time, throughout the history of chiropractic. And it's all about how we see it and how we leverage it. And Dr. Steve, we're going to create a framework, paint some picture here today. I think that everybody's going to get a lot out of, and you're going to understand exactly how to approach this now moving forward as we come to you here in 2025. We're in 2025, and we're in the second quarter as we're recording this podcast. And so we've got a quarter under our belt, Dr. Stephen. We got 3 quarters ahead, and we're in the second quarter of 4. And, it's time to really take a good hard look at where things are at and where we're going.
I love that you went there. I didn't know you were going to go there. So I think it's a perfect metaphor. It's a great analogy in that amplifier didn't change the sound of the guitar. It doesn't make the guitar sound differently. Mm-hmm. It amplifies it, right? So it makes it louder, makes it more intense, right? So it makes it more noticeable and it fills the room, right? So just turning up the amplitude of what's going on with whatever you're strumming, whatever you're playing, it's going to fill that room because of the amplifier, right? So it doesn't change the music, doesn't change the sound. And that, frankly, is exactly what goes on in the market, right? So when we think about the market, the market is the wild ride right now, right? So, and so many people are distracted by the market's up, the market's down, the tariffs are this, the politics of that. It's just like all over the board, all over the shop, and people get stressed when there's lack of certainty, right? So what ends up happening is everything just gets amplified. So I want to have this conversation today just through the lens of recognizing that it's all going to come down to positioning, right? So it's like, how does your business cope and adapt with the stress associated with this amplifier effect in the marketplace right now? Because it could be amplifying, things could be up or things could be down, still acts as an amplifier, right? So if you think about the market through the lens of it simply being an amplifier that's not really changing the sound or the music, it'll make it a lot easier for you to navigate these waters, right? So Dr. Pete, I remember my grandfather, my dad's dad, Gramp, told me that, he's like, he owned the liquor store in town, right? So imagine growing up in a town where my dad had 9 brothers and sisters. So everybody knew our name already, but my grandfather owned the liquor store in town. So everybody knew who we were, right? So, and I'm like, liquor store, Gramp. And I was like, he wasn't a big drinker or anything. I was like, why do you own a liquor store? Like, what gets you into being in the liquor store? I'm like, I see it. It's smart, but why the liquor store? He goes, when things are good, people celebrate and they drink. When things are bad, people, they get upset and they drink. he's like, I was like, that is such wisdom, Graham. He's like, yeah. And what he was saying was that a liquor store is recession proof. It's like no matter what's going on in the marketplace, people are buying booze, right? So I'm not advocating that we all open liquor stores or anything, but that perspective is just so healthy and helpful. I think if you think about how are you positioning your business, right? So regardless of what the marketplace is doing. So I love this concept. I heard it from Hormozi. I think Hormozi is a genius. Alex Hormozi talks about all businesses either have supply issues or they have demand issues, right? Supply or demand. Like we all understand the laws of supply and demand. Like that's what every business is a dynamic between supply and demand, right? So supply is you've got value that you add to the marketplace, right? And demand is the demand from the marketplace for that value, right? So what I will tell you is, is at any point in time, your business will go through these seasons where you have either a supply issue or you have a demand issue, right? So, and you're always going to have one or the other, and these things are fluid, right? So if you have a supply issue, what that means is you've got a ton of demand from the market, but you have capacity issues. So you're struggling being able to meet that demand, right? So that is a capacity issue, and that's stressful, right? So you have the stress of abundance, right? If you have a demand issue, what that means is you have plenty of supply, plenty of goods and services to sell, but the marketplace is not looking for it, right? There's a demand issue, right? So, and that is stressful as well, but this is like the stress of lack. So you're either dealing with supply issues, Dr. Pete, which are abundance and capacity issues, or you're dealing with demand issues, which is the stress of lack and scarcity issues.
So we find ourselves in this time in history, and we find ourselves in this time in the economy, and we find ourselves in this position where people, whether things are going great or not going great, they need chiropractic care. And so as CEOs of our businesses, as practitioners, we have our product is, whether we're recession proof as well. We've recognized that. We saw that through, 2008. We saw that through 2020. We've seen that throughout the pandemics, the great, the flu pandemic, 1918. You look at the history of chiropractic, you look at the times when chiropractic was under attack from the medical system, and chiropractors were going to jail for practicing chiropractic without a license. You look at all these seasons throughout our journey and our history, and chiropractic in 130 years has been through lots of, seasons in the economy, things, happening even internally within the context of the profession or in the healthcare industry. And yet we've been able to maintain and retain a position in the marketplace. And so, we find ourselves today positioned perfectly. I can't think of a better time to be a chiropractor than right now. We look at what's happening with the Make America Healthy Again movement. You think that that's not happening at the same time that these other challenges going on because there's not a higher power, there's not more going on? Of course there's more going on. There's much more going on. And you and I and we are in the center of it all because we hold a sacred trust. We have been entrusted with a message that the marketplace needs now more than ever before. And this is the time where they're going to be tuning in. They're going to be listening because we've been saying the message. We've been sharing the same message since the beginning. The message hasn't changed, right? That's the thing about truth. Truth doesn't change. It simply becomes more clear over time. The truth becomes truer over time. And that's what's happening right now in the world. We're starting to see people come to their senses. They're coming to this awareness, and they're getting back to the understanding that, our bodies are actually smart. We teach that. My body is actually smart. My body needs to be put the right things in the body. And, there's things that I should be doing to, make my body more healthy and improve my immunity. And it's not just looking for, some sort of a pill, potion, or lotion, or just rely on my genetics and that's all. And I got nothing else. It's the hand I've been dealt and nothing I can do about it. We're the ones who've been teaching epigenetics. We've been the teaching vitalism. We've been the one that's teaching people about what it means to live a whole healthy lifestyle. We were the ones who've been teaching people about the spine and nervous system and God's design from the beginning. And, you go back to the earliest writings of D.D. Palmer and B.J. Palmer, and you go back to the earliest generation of our chiropractic, you go through the 33 principles of chiropractic. It's all there. So now is the time. Like, if there's ever been a time to be a chiropractor, to roll up your sleeves, tighten up your boots, and be like, put me in, coach, now is the time. So you got to stop looking around and you got to start stepping in and stepping up, right? You're distracted. Don't be distracted. Now it's time to focus. Dr. Stephen, I remember the Phoenix plan. What was so powerful about that in 2020 was it did this. It got everybody focused. It was like, we're looking around. It's like, no, right here. Stabilize yourself, stabilize your team, stabilize your patients, stabilize your community. I mean, it's phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And it was all about creating stability. And then there was this, we had the 10 to 12 steps, 10 to 12 steps, 10 to 12 steps for each one of the phases of the Phoenix plan. If you guys want to know a framework that you should apply, if you're feeling this, go back to the Phoenix plan from 2020.
Right. Stabilization, reactivation, mobilization, right?
Dust it off, and put it into practice now. If you're feeling this now, Dr. Stephen, if they're feeling it, go back to putting that back into place.
Yeah, when you talk about make America healthy again, you can imagine that's the marketplace, right? So if the marketplace is an amplifier and that narrative, that message is in the marketplace, that acts as an amplifier and creates increased demand. So now we have a supply issue. Because the truth is, Dr. Pete, is, we got our eyes on chiropractic businesses all around the world. And I know two things to be true. Almost every practice could 2X, but no practice could 10X. So could you imagine what would break if you 2X your practice? Like all of a sudden the demand for new patient day ones doubled. What would break? If your number of reported findings, would the rule of 72 break? You wouldn't be able to get the reported findings done in fast enough, get the patients in fast enough for their day one, back for their reported findings. What would break? Would you, if people convert it, would your conversion process break? Or what if they all converted? Would your delivery process break? Next thing you know, your hot seats are backed up and jacked up. Could you serve all of that demand, right? And then what would happen? The progress exam, progress reports, re-exams, re-reports, re-x-rays, what would break if you 2X'd your business? If you 2X the practice, if you had a demand that doubled, you can imagine that if the demand doubled, how you would run into supply problems, right? So you'd end up with capacity issues. That would be an amplifier from the marketplace. Well, what if all of a sudden we're on the other side of this and there's a demand issue, right? So when all of a sudden it is the marketplace is in a panic because of the market is off, right? So next thing you know, they have this economic uncertainty, and in times of uncertainty, people don't take action, this inaction. Either people don't raise their hand for help or they don't commit to help. Your conversion process is off, what have you, right? So next thing you know, reconversion is off. It's like, the lack of certainty, people act out of fear and doubt, and fear and doubt disempowers them to say, I'm going to take charge of my health, right? If they're ill-equipped, right? So now you've got a demand issue. You could supply it, but you have a demand issue. Dr. Pete, you can see how this gets amplified by the marketplace, right? So let's take a lesson from Big Al, my grandfather, right? So with the liquor stores, you've got to make sure that you recession-proof, right, your business, right? So whether the market is delirious and inebriated with success and they're distracted and they think they're invincible, so they're not taking their health seriously anymore because everything's so good, they're distracted with all that abundance, or they're in a panic because all of a sudden they're stressed because of the fear and lack mentality, right? So either way, it's stress, right? So how have you positioned your services? How have you positioned chiropractic? Why should anyone see a chiropractor ever? In good times or bad, in challenging times or not, in times of supply or times of lack. When should somebody see a chiropractor ever, right? So do your patients understand that it's your nervous system? It's the nervous system, the master system of the body that allows you to be well. It's your nervous system. The definition of wellness is your body's ability to adapt readily and appropriately to stressors. So does your community, do your patients and does your community know that you are the expert that makes sure that system, the nervous system, is clear of interference so that you're able to cope and adapt readily and appropriately to whatever stresses, whether those are stresses of abundance or stresses of lack? Dr. Pete, it's just so critical that it comes down to this positioning. I know what's true is the way we ran our practice is patients understood why they saw the chiropractor, right? So they understood they wanted to make sure that nervous system was operating free of interference. And I know the truth of this is when you recognize that in times of stress, you need your chiropractor more, not less. So chiropractors, listen to me. This is the more stressful things get, whether it's stress of abundance or stress of lack, if you're positioned properly, the more valuable your service is. And I hope you heard that. I'm going to say it again. is if you've positioned yourself properly as that expert that makes sure the nervous system, the system that helps us adapt and cope readily and appropriately so we can be badasses regardless of what's going on in the marketplace, that our nervous system is operating clear and free of interference so we're able to adapt readily and appropriately to those stresses. I know the truth. The more stress there is in the marketplace, the more people need chiropractors, not less. And it's the same for us now, Dr. Pete, as coaches. The more stress that there's in the marketplace, whether it's stress of abundance or stress of lack, the more people need a great coach. It's more, not less.
And Dr. Stephen, I'm going to double click on this because I'm feeling that right now. There's a lot that need to hear this as you're listening to this. And I'm going to encourage you to share this with a colleague right now. This is a podcast that needs to be shared with your brothers and sisters because, Dr. Stephen, that question is what would happen if you 2X? I want to actually circle the wagons around that. You should 2X. So we asked the question, what would break if you did? I'm saying you should. You need to. We need to be able to serve more people. We've got to stop playing the smaller. We've got to start thinking bigger. And we're not saying 10X, Doc, like you said. I'm not saying 10X. Most probably couldn't 10X, but you could 2X. Well, what would have to be true and what would break if you did? Let's work on that. Because right now, there is an awakening happening. There is a shift happening. And there is an awareness and there is a marketplace and there's a demand. I think we have a supply issue, not a demand issue, is my personal opinion. I think it's always been that way in chiropractic, but I believe it's now coming to a head. And it's like you said, it's regardless of the economy, but even if with the economy, it simply serves as an amplifier to expose people's stress. Think about all the exposure that's happening right now in the marketplace with technology and children's brains, all the books that are being written, all the podcasts, every show. My kids are in that stage in their life, in their schools. You know what every parent meeting about? You know what all the emails are about? It's all about the mental health of kids these days. That's what's going on. Why? It's an amplifier. But guess what it's leading to? More solutions, more action steps. Well, guess what? You're a part of that. Who is better equipped to handle a neurologically stressed, strained brain and body that a child would have than a chiropractor? There's no one better at that. Yes, we have to take preventative measures like reducing and eliminating the use of technology significantly for our kids and all that. But who is better equipped to give that child the foundation that they need to be neurologically stabilized so they can function optimally in their life? The chiropractor. You are the one. And so you got to get that message out in the marketplace. Everybody's listening to that. That is the word on the street. That is the big talk right now. You should be speaking into the mental health movement for children, and chiropractic should be at the forefront leading that and making sure that the chiropractic adjustment and chiropractic care is embedded inside these solutions, this strategy to restore health mentally, physically, emotionally, for children, for families worldwide. That's just an example of one challenge that we currently face today. Have you positioned yourself in the marketplace to speak into that, to be a solution, are you a messenger in the marketplace, speaking to the marketplace with what they need to be hearing right now? This is our time. This is your moment. This is the year. Now is the time. Please stick around for more business insights from this week's bonus interview with our remarkable success partner dedicated to helping you more successfully help more people. Enjoy. All right, guys. So Dr. Pete Camiolo here. Happy to be in the studio with my friend and somebody I've gotten to know over the years. She's been a wonderful supporter of the Remarkable Practice over several years now. Joe Hagan from Wealth Colony. Joe, so glad to have you on the podcast. Thanks for taking the time to meet with me. And today we're going to talk about wealth. We're going to talk about wealth building. We're going to talk about money strategies. We're going to talk about what's new and what's happening here in this world. It's 2025, and it's great to be connecting with you. So maybe just take a minute or two for our audience. Some might know you. Many might not know who you are. So
Right.
give us a little insight. Tell us a little about who you are, and then I've got some more things I'd love to talk to you about today.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Pete, for having me here as a guest on your podcast. About myself, first and foremost, I like to say I'm a present husband and dad. I have 5 kids. That's my why, right? And I'm halfway through the whole, Groundhog Day with, we were talking earlier, my middle daughter going into college next year. And professionally, I started out of college years ago on Wall Street, being the dinosaur stockbroker. And somewhere along the line, you saw that whole model changing, right? Because now it's like, why do you want to pay someone to do a trade for you or handle things that you can do on your own, right? There's a lot of, Charles Schwab was $10 and now it's $0 at Robinhood. All of that you saw coming. But most importantly, I got indoctrinated into the blockchain. I didn't buy it enough at Bitcoin when it was like, a buck, $5. And I've watched for almost 15 years now since I've been involved in it, Pete. Bitcoin went from something only drug dealers use to only small companies use to only small countries use. Now Wall Street, and now they just started the digital asset summit because the White House has a crypto czar. What I've been doing is I've been learning a lot from folks way above my intellectual pay grade. And I try to take that and demystify it to my ecosystem of friends and family that are just growing. Hey, here's how to use it. Here's how to trade it. Here's something you might want to consider investing in. But above all, when I talk to people about what the future is, because I like to say your grandkids are going to laugh at you and say, wait, put your money in a bank, really? Like you gave them like like they borrowed your money and it wasn't guaranteed, and it's all about peer to peer, and everything's going on the blockchain, and they're going to grow up with it. Same way that our kids don't know cursive now because they grew up with an iPhone, right? Decentralized finance, educating people on why it's important, what's at stake for not knowing it, and really how to use it in your business besides your professional or personal life. That makes
Yeah, and
sense.
I'm really interested in that, and I sense that on my side, just with my own kids, just talking about, very practically, like the days that I had a pager when I would get texted from my boss or paged by my boss, and I'd have to go find a phone and call them back and find out what the heck was going on because, they paged me into work or something was going on the job and I need to
Right.
find out more. I remember, I talk like that to my kids and, how the first cell phones were and, what we used to watch on, we had like 4 or 5 channels on television, and if it wasn't on, you didn't get to watch it. If you missed the Giants game, it was over. You wasn't watching replay. There was no way to fast forward. There was no, like we talk like this and it's dinosaurs, but that's what you're talking about is what it's going to be for in the banking and the money and the finance world. And I've been following you for years now. And I love reading your emails and all the things you send out and keeping your people informed and educated, which is a big part of what we teach in chiropractic, that our job is to educate and adjust our patients, right? And you do the same thing. I know you're a big believer in educating your people, being educated. Can you talk a little about, we talk about a job of a CEO is to solve problems, a business is to solve problems for another person, right? So your business,
Right.
what specifically, like you work with chiropractors, you work with doctors, you work with a lot of people, but you specifically are working in our space, serving chiropractors. Talk to me a little about what are the challenges that you're seeing chiropractors face and how are you helping them in this space specifically with the work you guys are doing?
Yeah, thank you. First, friends in the space that introduced me to you guys at TRP, like-minded, entrepreneurial. My family, none of us, took the vaccine. All of these things come alive. My daughters, my other kids that have played sports, we believe in, getting adjusted and being, competitive and all those things. So one of the things I learned along the way was just enlightening them on what I learned on projects that really were impactful, and you can see like, okay, not something I'm reading about. If you can educate me and help me understand it, let me make money. So we help people understand originally a couple of years ago how to go open a Coinbase account. Don't be scared. Don't listen to the corporate media that's telling you to take a vaccine. They're the same ones that are telling you that Bitcoin is a scary word. It's not. Okay. They weren't invested in it. They needed to get invested in it. So they wanted to scare the retail people away. But at the same time, the technology, it's like imagine you being a college student or a chiropractor running a business and not having office, using a typewriter and whiteout. Like that's the next step. And if I can help people understand using the blockchain or using different things to enhance their business. And one of the things I will tell you for chiropractors, they get it. I see them very active on social media. So there's a lot of things that we can do, that you can do once you get educated. But if I could just talk about one thing, it's every $1 billion brand has a rewards program. Why don't you? Right? So what do you mean? I'm not Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts. I'm Dr. Pete or Dr. Smith. And at the end of the day, it's like, yes, but if you understand Web3 and Web3 marketing and blockchain, it's not about transactions. It's not about buy 9 cups of coffee, get your 10th one free. It's about driving customer, in your case, chiropractor case, patient engagement. The more they're engaged, the more office visits, the more patient retention, the more they tend to spend, the more they tend to share. So if you could take the blockchain, all these things, if you want certain behavior that you want to reward from all of your patients, will happily do it because they love Dr. Peter, they love Dr. Stacy, right? You could run a rewards program that has been proven. The reason why every brand does it that has money is it boosts customer retention, profitability, and really everything you want to do in that space is customer patient engagement. So now you can take something and put it in a smart contract, which we would show you can show you how to do it. It's not rocket science unless you make it rocket science. You take, okay, if you retweet something that I tweeted, if you join this group, if you write a testimonial, if you do these things, now my efforts on social media that I'm already doing, which is called Web2, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, X, right?
Yep.
They get exponentially exploded. And now you bring in more people that are interested in learning more about your services, and you drive more and more patient engagement. That makes sense?
No, I love that. I love that idea. To your point, this is what the billion-dollar companies are doing. In our programs, we teach concepts of how to run, a remarkable business. We talk about building a remarkable practice, and we talk about then scaling it into a remarkable business. And what we're doing is we're learning from what are the bigger successful businesses? What are they doing? What are the best practices? What have all of the people that have gone before us learned through trial and error, through blood, sweat, and tears, through a lot of money, and how do we apply it? And this is a great example of a rewards program which drives engagement, as you said, and engagement is a prerequisite for all the other things we desire, whether there's referrals, it's retention, it's results or revenue. All that's directly connected back to an engaged audience, which is powerful. You talked about one of the things you said was, how easy it is. When you educate people on how to open a Coinbase account. Talk about that, for example, for like chiropractors and what you're doing for them, maybe even for their staff. Are you guys including any of this in, let's say, if I hire a team and you want to build this into the team benefits for being a part of our team? And are you doing anything on that side in terms of, what separates us apart? How do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace? Why would somebody come work for you versus, let's say, somebody down the street? Are you doing anything with that too, with the chiropractors? These are small business owners that are competing for A-level talent in the marketplace. Is there anything there that you're doing there, Joe, as well?
Yeah, as far as teaching you how to set up and trade, and get some trade alerts that make sense. I mean, that was so 2021, right? What happened was we got hit with a crypto winter in 2022, and then we learned from guys like Mark Andreessen and Ben Horowitz. They're like the biggest mentors of Silicon Valley, of just how bad the Biden administration was to crypto specifically. And they were on Joe Rogan. They're talking about on their podcast, and everybody was scared to talk about that until the election came. And then they came out. Now everybody's building. You've got cryptos are. You've got clarity and regulations. Now it's easy to say, hey, Pete, remember that thing I was telling you was going to come out for chiropractic a couple of years ago? How come it's not out yet? Watch that podcast. You'll realize that these companies, like, you can bring fentanyl across the border, you can rob a car, grand theft auto. That's okay. Lawlessness like that is okay. But if you're an MIT or a University of Chicago kid that wants to build some cool blockchain application, right, and innovate, you're the bad guy, and you're going to get debanked. You're going to get an SEC Wells notice. Like, it was just wild how they all came out talking about it. So there's a frenzy now of building and moving forward because the technology is that great. Where it applies to chiropractors for me would be, all right, they have this Revolution chain that it really is the new rebrand of the old product we used to talk to you about. Okay.
Yep.
They just went bigger. And Revolution is a L2 chain. What does that mean? That means it's a layer 2 that lays right on top of Ethereum. Imagine if you're driving down a highway, right? And you just want to get in the easy pass lane. and not pay more for it, actually save you money. Layer two lets you do transactions cheaper and faster in a certain space. Coinbase came out with Base. Evolution is really for the creator economy. And how is a chiropractor a creator? Well, I don't know. I know a lot of chiropractors sell supplements. I buy some that I take, in order to stay healthy. Maybe you start an affiliate promote program and you have it run, and everybody that is your patient or customer becomes an affiliate, and you just build this beautiful model. By the way, you spend enough time taking care of your patients. Doesn't You got to set it up and let it forget it, because it's built into a smart contract on the blockchain. It's completely transparent. All the accounting and payments and everything is done in real time, real settlement. So that some of the things that you're already doing, you talked about learning from other practices in the past and make them remarkable. You never had the blockchain. So you could
Right.
take some of those lessons, and if you could take this new tool, like, oh my gosh, I don't have to have, typewriter and whiteout. I got this thing called, I can copy and paste, and all the file saving, all the other stuff Microsoft Office does. This is just another level. It takes out middlemen in every way. And when you flip the middleman and take it out of the equation on its head, the profitability and the scalability just goes to another level. And if you're, like I said, running something for like a chiropractor, it would be okay. You can invest in it. Like, you could have bought Microsoft when it first came out, or you could have bought Apple when it first came out with the iPad and the iPhone and all that stuff, and you would have made a lot of money. So there's discussions there where you may want to invest, but how to use these products to really make your practice more efficient is the discussions we have. And yeah, we have coaches, a couple of coaches here that are partners. And we're teaching them, like, for right now, we have a way for them to, get on this network. It's free. If you get in early, you get rewarded. And when it goes live, you'll have access to all kinds of ways to utilize that network, test it out, and say, you know what, this makes sense to me. I got the aha moment. Yes. And then if you start using it, like I said, it's literally something that I believe um, could be as common as liking and following and all the stuff that you can do on the network. And like I said, have it running, and it's running for you, and it's not taking away from your bandwidth. Spend some time and think about it. Whether it's 5 minutes or 10 minutes, you set it up, you let it run. You don't have to watch it. That's the beautiful part about it. Literally, you set it and forget it product. And we have another company that we invested in that has a 7-year, just separate from the Revolution chain, that has a separate AI that trades the market for you. And it has more than a 7-year track record, right, of literally outperform the S&P index. And the guy that runs the AI has been way ahead of all these Johnny come lately AI companies that are coming out there. He used to manage $8 billion for Deutsche Bank, and he's the expert that has trained the AI for machine learning. And literally, it's really easy to use. It's like conservative, aggressive, moderate. That is what we learned on the other Dr. Crypto Pro product that we had. That it was great when the market was great, but to really trade it, you had to learn how to trade. Where most people that we spoke with just wanted to set it and forget it. So you have AI that's helping you navigate markets like the one we have today, down 1,000. That's less worry you have to have on the markets, and your investing is in good hands, and more money, more time. So there's a couple of different ways that we help people do that. And you can set up a coaching call with me or Matt or one of my team and just kind of walk through that wherever your interest may lie.
It's good. So with that, you've piqued my and I'm sure a lot of others' interest. What would be the next step then to get on a call with you, Matt, one of your people? What's the next step? How do people learn more, take a next step?
Yeah, I would say I write articles every day and see what piques your interest on LinkedIn. Joseph Hagan, comma, blockchain enthusiast. One of my favorite people. My title years ago, and I get really good engagement. People message me all the time there. And while you're there, before you message me, you can read a couple of articles. Oh, wow, that one makes sense. Maybe this is something that I want to learn how to do more. Or just email me at joe@wealthcolony.com. That's my email. And LinkedIn is Joseph Hagan, blockchain enthusiast
Beautiful.
on
You guys
LinkedIn.
heard it here. So check out Joe and read his stuff. I love reading your stuff. You always put out great content, great information, make it really easy to understand for people that are maybe not operating in this space. So check out Joseph Hagan on LinkedIn at Blockchain Enthusiast, and also Joe at wealthcolony.com. Also, you can find Joe. If you come to our immersion events, you'll see Joe or somebody from his team usually represented at the event. So stop by the booth and say hello to them as well. But Joe, thanks for taking the time to be here. Thanks for being a supporter of the Remarkable Practice, which is Chiropractic. And our goal is to help more chiropractors become more successful, which means they're helping more people. And that means we're making a bigger impact in this world, which is something that you're doing as well. So thanks for being a great supporter of our movement and our work. We appreciate you. And thanks for taking the time to be with me here today.
Likewise, pleasure to be here as always.
Hey, Remarkables, Dr. Stephen Franson here. Are you ready to take your practice systems to the next level? Grow your practice, increase your profits. Would you like to have your team immersed in a high-energy, inspiring environment where they're trained and skilled up in the complete TRP system? I've got great news. It's that time of year again. It's time for the Remarkable Conversion and Retention Immersion. It only happens one time a year in the US and once in Australia. June 6th and 7th in Orlando, and June 27th and 28th in Sydney, Australia. In this comprehensive training on the complete Remarkable Practice Building System, we cover everything. Day 1, 2, 3, 4, week 1, 2, 3, 4, month 1, 2, 3, 4, year 1, 2, 3, 4, and beyond. Patient conversion and retention. We cover the entire system. What would it feel like to see more of your new patients eagerly starting care and then happily following your recommendations for care? They stay under care because they want chiropractic care. At this powerful and inspiring 2-day event, you and your team will discover exactly what is working today in the conversion process. New patients starting care and staying under care. Building your practice volume and your revenue. Learn the most cutting-edge communications that drive more conversions, unbelievable retention, and incredible referral. This is the best bang for your buck in training all year. Register your team at theremarkablepractice.com or find the link in the show notes below. Join us for a jam-packed 2 full days of intensive training for chiropractic teams that want to grow their practice and increase their profit. June 6th and 7th in Orlando, Florida, and June 27th and 28th in beautiful Sydney, Australia.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Remarkable CEO Podcast. Remember, what the world needs now is chiropractic, and what chiropractic needs now is more successful chiropractors. If you like this podcast, please subscribe, share with a friend, and leave us a review. And if you'd like to connect with us personally, direct message us on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. Now go and be remarkable.